Good morning. My name is Jerry Wellik, and I'm going to introduce the speaker today. That's my job. So I got the directions on what's to happen today. So trying to figure out how to introduce myself. It says on the description that I'm a professor at St. Cloud State University. Well, I used to be.
Your speaker's
Speaker's not on.
Oh, that's because I forgot to turn the... Thanks for the suggestion.
You're too good. We don't want to miss anything.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So anyway, I just recently retired.
Congratulations.
It's kind of a weird place to be. So I'm kind of in between. And so I guess my official title is Professor Emeritus at St. Cloud State. But actually I'm just Jerry. And I just love these meetings. And I'm here just about every time I can be here. But I missed 2 in a row. So I'll tell you a little story about how I happened to miss 2 in a row. Master Lin was the speaker on September 7th, and I really wanted to be here. But sometimes my wife doesn't agree with me. And it was my birthday and my retirement party. So, and the reason I didn't invite you is because I didn't want you to know that I'm getting older. I turned 75 and retired at the same time. So don't tell anybody though. So I'll have to find another way to describe myself, which is good. So I'll have a new identity. So that's part of the whole process too, is renewing. And that's in the healing process, really what we have to do is to let go of who we thought we were, become a new person. And it's exciting and also scary at the same time. So the last time I spoke was in May, and to tell you the truth, I was shaking in my boots. It was a weird thing because we were just leaving for a trip to go to China and then to Vietnam. And just that thought of, well, I'm going to Vietnam, a lot of old feelings kind of came back up. Because last time I went 50 years ago, I was absolutely scared. And I still have to let go of stuff. I thought I was all over that. But it's still a process of letting go. Letting go. I put my water here somewhere. Where in the world? Okay. I have to take a little bit of water here. Water helps me to relax. So when I get to introduce people, I usually do a poem or a story or a joke or something that seems appropriate. Usually a story or a poem. And I thought, well, which one would be fitting for this occasion? And are some of you familiar with the character Nasruddin? Anybody here know Nasruddin? He's a kind of a Middle East trickster figure. He's not only a wise sage, but he's also the fool. And so there's lots of stories told about Nasruddin, how he would do something, and it seemed like it was a really odd thing, but sometimes it would also be a very wise thing and would get the people, get the energy moving again. So I'll tell you a Nasruddin story. For instance, Nasruddin was on the train, and the conductor said, can I have your ticket, Nasruddin? And Nasruddin starts checking in his pants pocket, and he checks in his briefcase, he looks in his suitcase, he started looking at other people's suitcases, and the conductor says, now Nasruddin, I know you have your ticket. Now most people keep it in their upper hand, left hand coat pocket. Why don't you check there? He says, oh no, he says, I couldn't do that. He says, if it's not there, I have no hope. It's that kind of a story that Nasruddin would tell. And I think sometimes I'm like this character Nasruddin. I feel like I don't have any idea what I'm doing, but then if I can get into my heart, everything is just fine. So it's just like getting from the head into the heart. There's another Nasrudin story. Nasrudin was thought to be this great speaker, and everybody heard these stories about Nasrudin. And so he was going to speak in this temple or wherever it was, a gathering place, a holy place. And there was quite a good crowd there. And Nasrudin showed up and he says, do you know what I'm going to talk to you about tonight? And the people said, no, Nasrudin. He says, well, if you don't know what I'm going to talk about, why should I waste my time on you? And he went home. Well, the following week, lots of stories were told about Nasrudin, about this unusual character. So the following week, there was an even bigger crowd there. And he comes in, he gets up in front of the podium, and he says, do you know what I'm going to speak to you about tonight? And they wanted to hear him speak, so he says, oh yes, Nasrudin. He says, then if you know what I'm going to talk about, why should I waste my time with you? So he went home, and well, the third week, and in stories, things come in threes, by the way. The third week, there was just a huge standing room crowd only, and he come in and he said, do you know what I'm going to speak to you about tonight? And half the people said, no, Nasrudin. And half the people said, yes, Nasrudin. He says, well, then those of you that know what I'm going to speak about, tell those that don't know what I'm going to speak about. And then he went home. But so life is kind of like that. The experts really are the people that are right around us. And it's all around us. And I like that story because sometimes when you teach, you think you're teaching something, it's the people then that are getting it, that are speaking to each other, that get it at a deeper level. And it was actually like that when we went to China. I'd never been there before, and there's a lot that I don't know about China. And we had a 2-week tour, and my wife is a pretty good shopper, and she lined us up with a touring company called Top China Tours. And we went to 5 major cities, Beijing and Xi'an and Chongqing, cities I hadn't heard too much about, but anyway, we went into Shanghai, 5 major cities. But the people that we traveled with, there were like 11 in our group to start with. We were the only ones from the United States. And to tell you the truth, the part that I enjoyed the most was talking with these other people in different languages and observing something, and the way we were seeing it and hearing it in our different voices and our different experiences. It was just such a lovely, lovely experience. And we saw so many things, and I want to know more about China. It's just so much to learn. But I have to take things like one bite at a time, because I'm kind of eager sometimes. I want to do everything, and I want to see everything right away. And then I have to just kind of like get myself to slow down. And I'm even in that period right now, as I'm retiring and going into a new life. So many things I want to do, but I know I can't do all of them, but somehow I have to try different things out. So I'm trying a lot of different things out right now, and learning from all of the people around me to find out, to trust myself about where I need to go and where I need to be, because the only answers are here within. So that's part of it. I got 20 minutes to introduce myself. Actually, if different people were to introduce me, they would all see a different person. And I think we're all like that. And sometimes when we are asked to write a bio or something, and we describe ourselves, and it's words, and then we think we are that. But that's not really who we are. There's so much more that can be put into words. The words are only the small part of what all this is all about. And I think sometimes we're doing the best teaching when we don't even know we're doing it. But when we come from the inside and we find it in our hearts, and we really pay attention to these other people that are around us, the energy comes through us. It doesn't come from us. And that's the way it is with healing too. We don't do it, but we get out of the way and let that mysterious part that's inside of all of us work through us, and it happens. So the reason I wasn't here 2 weeks ago is because my birthday party and my retirement party. So don't tell anybody I'm 75 years old. But it's the new 50, I guess. So that's the way I think about it. Then last month I didn't get to come because another trip my wife arranged. But this was a good one. They were both good. But we went to. We have 2 daughters. And the older one is now living in Asheville, North Carolina. And it's very close to where the National Storytelling Festival is. And before I got into Spring Forest Qigong, which was about 2000, for the 10 or 12 years before that, each year in October, we went to the National Storytelling Festival. And so it was kind of a reunion of going back to this festival. So our daughter there is married a guy from Peru. He's a teacher, and she's a preschool teacher now. And we camped on this one of the Smoky Mountains right outside of Asheville, or right outside of Jonesboro, Tennessee, in the Smoky Mountains. It's like solid rock there. Trying to put a stake in was quite a challenge, but it was really a good time. It was a really great time, and heard so many storytellers. And then I started thinking, gosh, maybe I ought to get back into storytelling. That's really what it's all about for me. Storytelling is the basis. It's kind of like storytelling is to life and to the arts as Qigong is to the healing. It's like a lot of people know about Tai Chi and all these other kinds of things, but Qigong goes way back. And for me, storytelling, it's all about stories. And so one of the things that I'm exploring is kind of the new wave in special education is there's so many issues in the schools, new kinds of issues. And there's many kids that have had in some manner something, like some kind of trauma. So it's called trauma-informed methodologies, or based on the ACEs. I don't know all of these acronyms and whatnot, but the sense is that many kids are dealing with things that we need to come from the heart more than from the cognitive approaches. That's the way I'm kind of thinking about what it is. So a former teacher, one of my former students, and she's been an adjunct professor, said, how about maybe we should teach a course, and would you be willing to work with me and see if we can develop some kind of an approach? So, and she teaches in Sartell, a very good teacher. And so last Monday night, I went to Sartell to the Sartell Elementary. But before I could go there, I'd been working with this school for 45 years. But now that I'm retired, I had to get a criminal background check. And I had to pay for it. And I had to do it online. And I said, I wouldn't mind doing it, but I have to do it online? And oh my God. So this is last Wednesday. Well, a week ago Wednesday. I'm filling this thing out, and I'm not really computer literate. And I was trying to figure out if I had all the information or whatever, and they needed my social security number. And I thought, God, I don't know if I want to give this. And I had my fingers on it, and it went. And then I was just a nervous wreck. I said, oh my God, how am I going to explain this to my wife? I've sent this darn form. I didn't say darn, it was more than that. And so I didn't sleep the night before. I just couldn't sleep. I thought I revealed So the next morning I went and I called the woman. I said, geez, I just really screwed up, and she said, well, let me see what went out. Well, it was only the last 4 digits of my social security number, but I thought I'd really screwed up. And so I was like lost a whole night of sleep for no reason. And my life is like that a lot of times. I think I really screwed up. And sometimes it turns out to be a real good thing. I mean, I'm kind of like this Nasrudin guy. But as long as I can stay in my heart, and then I'll be okay. It's just like there's something really magical about that. And I mean, even this last night, it was kind of screwy. I says, God, I'm going to be speaking on non-attachment. Now, what does that really mean? I mean, I had some notes and whatnot, and I thought, well, I'll Google it and I'll find out. You know, so it's non-attachment, and I saw this first thing that came up says 10 things about non-attachment. I said, oh my God, they're going to find out I don't know anything about non-attachment. Jeez, I am Nasrudin, I guess. But then I decided to sleep. I'll just have a good night's sleep, and you know, I just kind of like said a little prayer for asking for help before I went to sleep. And I woke up. I said, they can look it all up. I'll just tell them what I think about it, what I think it is. And that's kind of what I'm going to tell you, what I think about non-attachment, my version of what it is. One other thing about the Sartell story, though, is this Michelle, the teacher I'm going to work with, was telling me about her number one teacher, Teresa. She said, I have this teacher that's just magic with the young children. And so I went to watch Teresa teach. This was last Monday night. They had the parents there observing. And then Teresa came up and she says, gee, I haven't seen you for a long time. And I remembered kind of. And then she reminded me, she says, yeah, I was your student in 1984. And it was just amazing what I learned in your class. I said, well, which one was that storytelling class? I had a class then called Storytelling for Teachers. And the two teachers I was working with have gone way beyond what I could do. But that's what it's about. It's like doing it the best we can at this moment and then passing it on. So it's like, that's what we want in teaching. You know, first I thought, I'm not nearly as good as they are, kind of comparing myself, and then I'm saying, but that was the true purpose in the beginning. And so I think life is, it's so wonderfully amazing. And we're just so happy, we should be so lucky. That's what I think about Master Lin, is he's always so joyous to be here. And he seems to have something that's not describable. But we all came to this work because of some reason, and we all have like a backstory. How did we get here in the first place? Something brought us here. And in my case, it was, it was a weird thing. I was working with Learning Strategies Corporation in the 90s, and Paul Sheely, who owns Learning Strategies, or who is the founder, he said, you need to meet Master Lin. You need to meet Master Lin. He's going to be a very famous person, and you need to meet him and do the coursework while he's, while he's in and around here, because he's a pretty important person. And so I bought, at that time, it was these VCR tapes and levels 1 and 2, and put them in, and I just didn't. Nothing happened, and then we happened to be going to Europe in 1999. So I was in the Czech Republic for a year, and I took them with me. I was going to do it there. Never took them off the shelf. Came back, and I signed up for another class with Learning Strategies, and at that time, then they were doing every morning. It was a week-long class, an hour of Spring Forest Qigong. And that one, the first on the Monday, when I was doing it with other people, it was like I felt the energy. And I had been, and it happened to be a time when I was having very, very severe headaches too. And this is a long story. I mean, I got into the VA, they were going to do all kinds of stuff with me, and I just didn't feel that was it. But when I was doing this exercise, the moving of the yin and the yang, I just felt a little crick, 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 crick. And I'll never forget that feeling. It was like something opened up. And then I just really got into it, took level 1, level 2, had been feeling some other kinds of issues, and mostly because of the scare of thinking that I had leukemia. I went back to check their records, and I switched oncologists, but they said, well, we never told you that. We said you had pre-leukemia. All I heard was leukemia. Well, I don't know even what the records say, but when I thought I had leukemia, I couldn't sleep at night, and I was just filled with fear. And I had some sessions with Master Lin, and it was actually 6 sessions at that time. That was in 2008, I guess. But when he was working on he was behind me, and I felt like a little fountain open. And I'll never forget that feeling. That feeling, that when you feel it and you know, there's just like a knowing. I don't know how I know that. I'm talking like Nazrud here. I don't know how I know that, but there's a knowing. And when you trust that knowing, that's when it happens. It's just like trusting in that which is not observable. I've already gone past my 5 minutes of introduction, so now I'm going to start to talk. But I'm already there, I guess. But anyway, there's kind of like a backstory of how I got here. We all have a backstory, so that's part of the story. And last month, and I wasn't here because I was out east, but Gadu was the speaker, and I got to watch it on the video. And he talked about Spring Force Qigong as being like having a garden, and how you tend the garden. So he was using that as a metaphor of gardening. And then, how many of you, well, I should have asked, how many of you are brand new here today, the first time? Okay, there's a few. And some of you have been here many times. But one of the persons that's a frequent speaker here is Master Katrina Toby. And did any of you happen to hear the Healing Connection talk on Thursday night? Let me see if how many might have heard that. Okay, so I'm going to repeat some of the things that she said. But she said that coming to meet Master Chuni Lin, it was like opened new doors for her. And I'm kind of blanking now exactly all of the things that she said. But she said it was like using these keys, and that the connections that we have with Master Lin are we all are somehow attracted to this work because of something. But sometimes it's about what's on the inside. It's like it's not observable. And so I'm going to make about 3 points, I guess, that I want to help you with. And I know that there's something about stories, so I'm going to be using some stories to illustrate the points. But we'll just start with just a brief little meditation if you just want to sit with get yourself relaxed how you do it. And there's a couple things that help us to be relaxed. One is to tuck your chin just a little bit. Make your spine nice and long and straight. Take slow, gentle, deep breaths. Put a smile on your face. And see a light. See a light inside of you. See that light in your lower dantian, which is deep in behind the navel. And now see that light move up slowly to your heart. Feel the light in your heart. And then see, like out in the center of the universe, a brilliant sun shining right in your heart, making that light in your heart even brighter and warmer. Brighter and warmer. And let that sun and that light in your heart sit on a lotus flower. So you have this beautiful sun in your heart, and it's on a lotus flower. And as you're breathing deeply, just feel and see, or anything that you experience. Maybe you can smell that lotus flower, or you can feel the sun in your heart. And feel how good it feels to just know that that's inside of you. This sun, this brilliant sun, this light, the light of the universe. And you're here today to learn some things about the theme of non-attachment. And just set an intention for yourself. One thing that you're working on, something that you would like to heal, something that you'd like to get better. And see and feel that as if it's come about, what it'll be like when you've done that. And you already have a hint of that at the end of this presentation today. You have some sense that this is already coming into being. Your intention for this coming here today, and the intention actually that relates to your whole life purpose. And just enjoy it. And then see yourself at the end of this time greeting and being with the people that you were with, and having this sense that you've already accomplished what you've been working on. And feel how good that feels, or notice anything about evidence that you received that. And then take 3 purifying breaths. And then rub your hands together nice and warm. And massage your face nice and make a nice little heart shape. And love yourself. And turn to your person on your left and tell them something that you appreciate about that person. Just look at that person. So if you happen to be at the end one, you just pretend there's somebody there. Okay? And now turn to your right and do the same. I appreciate your...
I want to hear this.
Okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, so there's something about noticing just what you appreciate and what you're already getting. And there's also something about, it's called the miracle question. So one of the things that I studied before I got into Spring Force Qigong, I studied many approaches. But I always kind of just came up with just a little bit empty. It wasn't quite it. And now that I'm working with Master Lin in Spring Force Qigong, there's just a knowing that I've arrived. I don't have to keep searching anymore, and it's a good feeling. But one of the approaches that I studied, some of you may be familiar with it, was NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And that's how I got to meet Paul Sheely and Learning Strategies. But one of the persons, there were these two people, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, that studied various people that were very, very effective communicators, counselors. And they included people, one was Virginia Satir, some of you might have heard of her if you're in the helping professions. Another one they studied was the founder of Gestalt therapy, Fritz Perls. And then the main one that they studied was a guy named Milton Erickson. He's the founder of hypnobehavioral therapy. And Milton Erickson was, he did the last half of his career, what he did was he told stories. People would come in and want to be healed, come in with something and they'd say, oh God, traveled all the way from Switzerland and all the guy, this old senile guy, all he did was sit there and tell stories. But what I came for has healed, amazingly. And that really appealed to me, that gosh, all you have to do is just tell stories. I could maybe do that. But that's what I found when I found Master Lin. He's a magnificent storyteller. And his stories, some of them I've heard many times, but it'd be so engaged in the story that it would just be like right there, right in that moment. And all healing happens in just one moment. Master Lin will tell you, he'll have a 20-minute session with you, but 19 minutes of it is fluff. The healing just happens just like that. It happens in one moment, one magical moment. And so a couple of the stories that I like that Master Lin told, there's two of them. One, this is what I was trying to remember from Katrina's talk, and now it's kind of coming to me again. But one of them was, he was at the Mayo Clinic talking to a bunch of doctors and whatnot, and most of them were pretty skeptical, and the guy sitting right next to him was very, very skeptical and questioning and whatnot. And he said, there's just something about this, but I don't believe anything you're saying. But then later he told Master Lin that his back that he'd been having troubles with that no doctors could fix has now healed. And so Master Lin says, just by being a love radiator, you can help others to heal just by being around you. And that story I said, oh, I want to do that. I want to be a love radiator. And then another one of his stories, and I'm really kind of thirsty today, and I'm just drinking lots of water. Could I ask one of you just to bring me some more water? Thank you so much, Annabelle. The other story that I like so much is the one where he's in the soccer field. Do you remember that story? Some of you remember that story? The way he tells the story, thank you so much. Appreciate that. It was like this very, very well-known healer that was somewhere in China. I don't know all the details, but it was like a 7.5-hour session where they didn't get to go to the bathroom or anything. They just were there for 7.5 hours. And 80% of the problems he was having with his bone spurs in his neck and his knees were healed at that time. And I thought, that story, wow. I would like to be like that healer. I would like to, gee, how could I ever do, but is this possible? It's like, did that really happen? It's just like an amazing story. But I've heard that story so many times, and each time I get something different from it. But I think, gosh, how did he do that? What is this master able to do? And I just love that story. I would like to be like that person in that soccer field. Could help heal people to heal and give them that hope that something would happen. Something would start a process where this healing occurs. What would it be to get to that point? Or how did they do that? It's just like that end point. I would like to be like that. And if one person can do it, anybody can learn to do it. And just yesterday, I was at conference. It was sponsored by the Confucius Institute in St. Cloud. And the Confucius Institute is I don't know all of the things, but there's like several universities have these Confucius Institute, and it's to develop relations with China and learn more about it. And there used to be one at the University of Minnesota, and we have the one at St. Cloud. The one at the University of Minnesota is shut down for some reason, so we're the only one in the state that has it. And I know the director very well, who's of it, so I'm connecting with her, and she invited me to this presentation. So I sat at a table. There was only one seat left by the time I got there, and it happened to be, to my right was a fellow that's a visiting scholar from some university in China. And then there were 3 other people that are professors at St. Cloud State that are originally from China. So I was getting all of these stories hearing about China. And one of them asked me, what these beads were about, and it's quite. And he was showing me his. He had another bracelet, and he wanted to know if these were real. And I said, well, I don't know. The master, I think they are. They're real to me. I don't know if they're real amber, but he was telling me about this process where you could check it out. And I haven't done it yet, or I don't know if I'm going to do it. But nonetheless, I was hearing all of these things that were pretty new to me. And some of the language, too, was, it was just like I couldn't always understand all the words, but I could feel the vibrations about something really good was happening there. But the fellow that was just on my right, I told him that I'm doing Spring Forest Qigong, and I wasn't able to, then he started telling me about how he saw what Qigong is, and he said there's 2 kinds, and they seem very complicated. And I guess what I was trying to say is, Master Lin has made this so that it's very doable. It's much easier. It's much easier than all of this complexity. And I like that idea. It's making it as easy and as accessible as we can make it. And so, anyway, I'm just kind of on this path. I think there's really something in this for me to be doing Qigong at the university. And I have this dream that, the bigger the goal, the more energy you're going to get, is that I can do something to change the way we're training teachers, particularly teachers that work with kids that are high risk. And there's many, 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 many kids now that are at risk. But the bigger the problem, the better the solution. And oftentimes it's just a simple one. So the reason I have this up here is because it was already on here, but I'm going to utilize. I was going to draw this, but this is already here. It looks like this is probably Master Lin's. But on the upper part of the lower part is what we're doing right now. It's like how we're trying to solve problems, but it's working in the visible world. What's observable. It's working with the data. It's working with the things that we can prove. And then when we get up in here, in these higher levels, beyond level 4, it's where we go into what's on the inside, what's on the imagination, the stuff that are the intangibles. And that's really where it is, in the heart. So one of the things, there was a book that I used when I was in graduate school, that my professor used. It was called How People Change. And it was by Alan Wheelis. And in this book, he said, the essence of the book was this. This is the book report. Sometimes we have to try harder. And sometimes we have to try differently. I really like that, the whole thing. When we try differently, we go on the inside and we find the answers are already there. And when we get stuck, that's just stuck energy is just a sign that what we're doing, maybe there's something that's simpler and easier. And I went to Vietnam. My wife set up the trip, and I wanted to show her stuff that I couldn't ever talk about. And it wasn't that way. What I found when we got to Saigon, where I was, the places weren't there anymore. There were hotels built up, and there was a big sprawling airport. And I just about got run over by motorcycles. It was just like zoom, zoom. I couldn't even cross the street. I was going to be the hero showing her, and she had to lead me across the street with my eyes closed because I couldn't trust. And I thought, holy cow, we've traveled all this way and spent all this money, and here I am, the bumbling fool again. But then I let that go and forgot about it. And we're traveling from place to place in Vietnam. And it was a lot easier for me in Vietnam than in China, because China was so big and so, I never knew anything about these cities. But when we got into Vietnam, I knew these cities that we went to. And we went to Da Nang and to Hoi An and to An Hoa. And when we got to Hue, it's spelled H-U-E, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, the magic happened. There was an incident that's going to be with me forever. But it was a typical kind of day. My wife was complaining about the heat. So damn hot, we got to get to the hotel. And I said, but we got to get water. We got to get some water and buy water. And I like to talk to people on the streets, even though I couldn't speak much Vietnamese. I wasn't impressing her with that at all. And but somebody pointed down that there's a guy down this street, and it was about 3 blocks away. She says, you need to go there, and this guy sells, he sells water. So, and I had a small bottle, and I said, I want a big bottle. Well, we get there, and there was this little Vietnamese guy, well, actually, when we came to the place, there was an old woman sleeping on a cot. It was about 100 degrees that day. And tried to explain to her what I wanted, and I can understand some Vietnamese, but I wasn't communicating very well. And then said, I want like a gallon of water. And actually, I said, I want 2 of them. And it wasn't working, and she called this guy over, and he didn't have a shirt on. He had just like this little pair of shorts on. He was dark skin, beautiful though. And trying to explain to him that I wanted water, and we weren't understanding each other. And I was starting to get frustrated that I'm not getting through to this. And it reminded me so much of being in Vietnam before, how the other soldiers were complaining about the heat, and I was just right. And there was just something about it. It was kind of scary or whatever. And then finally I just decided it's not working. But something came to me to just, and it was from a little book that I had read, or from one of the, actually it's in the, one of the persons that studied with Master Lin. I just put that sun and a lotus flower on my heart and on his heart, and didn't say anything. And somehow we both knew at that moment. And he went and got the water, and I said, I want another one. He brought it. And then he just started hugging me. It was just like, wow. All I had to do was to remember that I don't have to do this with words. Just trust. And in that moment, and my wife actually took a snapshot of us, and that was the healing moment. And being in Hue. So when I was telling that story then to our guide there, and I just started feeling really good in Hue. And then the guide told me, he says, Thich Nhat Hanh, some of you might know who Thich Nhat Hanh was born in Hue, and he's here right now in the city. He's come home to die. I was probably, we went on rides on these little, they're like bicycles with things. We used to call them grenade scoops when I was in Vietnam, but there's another name for them. But we were on like a little, going through the streets, and I thought, maybe I'm right close to where Thich Nhat Hanh is. And I think maybe why the peace of that city was is because there was a holy man there. And if Thich Nhat Hanh can do that, maybe we can all learn how to do that. He's been such a very, very influence in my life. So I take this bell, I call it the bell of mindfulness. I bought it, it was in the back of a book that I'd read. It was called The Miracle of Mindfulness. So I've been using this bell since 1984. So I use it as my bell of mindfulness. When I ring the bell, that's a signal for me. So a symbol or a signal. And it just helps to bring me back to that place in my heart, to be mindful. So the first point that I want to make today is this about sometimes we have to try harder and sometimes we have to try differently. And the differently is like going to our heart and trusting something that's already inside of us. It's trusting, it's already all here. It's just that somehow we've forgotten it. And maybe we come back here to find out what it was that we were supposed to do in the first place. So it's like our life purpose. If we are on purpose and we set our intention, we don't have to worry about how we're going to get there. Just trust the master or trust something that's already in us. It's like having faith. It's not observable, but the faith and the confidence to act that way is moving up into these higher realms, to go up into the heart. So try harder, try differently. And sometimes when we think that we're failing, ask the question, is this, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? What's the best use of my time right now to help me to get to that place where I'm supposed to arrive? So it's asking the question and trusting the energy is all in the uncertainty. It's like Master Lin has emphasized that so much time, and that's the message of, as I gather from the Tao Te Ching, is that we know 5%, but it's then the 95% in the uncertainty where all of the energy is. So if we always do what we've practiced to do, we can do that with these lower level skills. But there's something else that's a little bit higher. Something else. And I've had, I somehow just seem to keep coming back to the fact that maybe I'm supposed to, what my job here on this earth is to just learn something and pass it on. So one of the things that I want you to think about is there's like there was a French psychologist called Baudois, and he had it's called the Baudois principle, but that is if you have like a little slogan or a motto for yourself that's 6 words or less that will help to put you into this place where it's like you're a little statement of what your life purpose is or why you're here. So the one that I've been working on ever since I heard the story about Master Lin at the Mayo Clinic is, I am the quintessential love radiator. Look in the mirror and I say, I am the quintessential love radiator. 6 words, I am the quintessential love radiator. And so what I first found this in a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. It's one of the books I read many years ago, probably in the 80s. But there were 5 things that Joseph Murphy said in this book, that 5 things that we should follow. And I tie this with helps me to understand with Master Lin what I'm doing here. One of them is visualization. The second is affirmations. The third one was this Baudois principle. And then the other 2 are the ones that really give me the juice. One is the thank you principle. Say thank you before it's there. Trust that it's going to come. Just say thank you. That's what I did last night when I was thinking, God, I really screwed this up. I'm going to talk about non-attachment. They could just tune into Alan Watts, this little thing, and he does it so much better than me. Well, I'm not Alan Watts. Alan Watts did it in a great way. But this is Jerry Wellik. I have to be Jerry Wellik. That's who I was sent here to be. Still trying to figure out who he is, really. Kind of hard to introduce yourself when you only know a little bit about yourself, really. So anyway, about the time I was reading this book by Joseph Murphy, I was working with another fellow that I got to know quite well. He taught at St. Mary's for many years. His name was Art Spring. He was a graduate student with me at the University of North Dakota. But we made a presentation together and about defining how we saw education and whatnot. And Art came up with this little paradigm. He said, what we do in the schools is we're doing it's like training. We can do that. We can train kids to learn to read, to do math and all that kind of stuff. But there are two other parts that are more important. Or three other parts. Don't count too well. 1, 2, 3, 4. One is the creativity of every being. Everybody is creative in their own way. We just find out what way that is for them. Another one is the feelings. We have to trust the feelings that are occurring and how we feel, because that's in the emotional level is so much more important than in the cognitive level. I mean, they're both important. You can't have one or the other, but they go together, kind of like the yin and the yang. And then the other one, he said, is this concept of being one with. Being one with it. Joining with it. And that being one with it, it's hard to explain what that is, but when you're there, you know it. It's a knowing. It's just like, this is just so right. And sometimes you have that with somebody and you just have that feeling just for a moment. And I call these holy moments. To keep track of these holy moments when this happens. And oftentimes the healing, the teaching happens all at once. It's like alles zusammen, they say in German. One kind of thing. And all we have to do is just capture it at that moment. And with many of you in this room, we've had moments like that. Sometimes they're very pronounced. Like the one I had with Jay at level 4. It was one of those moments that I'll never forget. It was just like we were there. I can't even explain what it was about, but it was a great moment. And we have these moments with different people, sometimes just immediately when we meet them, and sometimes we don't see the real person until later, but it's in every one of us. So those holy moments, that's one of the points. I was going to make it very clear what I'm trying to teach you today, but one of them is to keep track of these holy moments. When is it that you have this kind of a thing, and how can you get it with other people? If you can do it with one person, and you have that magical connection, you can do it with anybody. You can do it with all people. So oftentimes people say, well, it's easy for me to work with so-and-so and whatnot, but I'm bothered or it doesn't work so well in other cases. Well, that's where we can learn the most, is those people who are our so-called enemies, or the ones that we don't agree with, where if we go a little bit deeper, we can say that that's just something I need to learn about myself yet. And I think that's kind of like what the power of forgiveness is all about. For me, that's the biggie, love, kindness, and forgiveness. For me, that forgiveness one is letting go of what I thought I knew. So non-attachment is very much like non-judgment. When you're judging something, putting a label on it, you don't really see it. But when you're just in that moment and it's pure love, and you have that, you can remember that and it'll grow. and know that then those things. So the ones that are working with us already well, that's on that kind of that lower level kind of thing. We can practice that, that's good. But then how do we move to the higher vibration where we become that love radiator? We're at that level. And some of those concepts, the 7 levels, so those of you that have, know Master Lin's 7 dimensions of learning, when we get to those higher levels, and we have those, I believe that when we're working with people and we're healing them, that the healing occurs, but that the draw in the world is so powerful that it brings them back, and they don't hold on to it. So I'll just give you an example. I have a good friend. I'm going to just call her Margaret. I'll just give her that name. Came to my practice group where she was a graduate student, and she came like twice. And at the second meeting, I just demonstrated, and somebody had a little backache there, and I just demonstrated what sword fingers was. And you just say open, 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 and completely healed. Well, that was on a Thursday. On the Sunday, it was on Mother's Day, and she was with her daughter, who was a junior high student, and they were on a trampoline. And her daughter went off and just fell on the ground, was in terrible pain somehow. And Margaret just went over and said, open, open, open. And then she called me at night. She said she was so scared. She said, it worked. My daughter got up, and it was like nothing happened. And then she ran the track meet the next day and had the best time she'd ever had. And it was like turning one thing, but it was like she didn't believe that it happened. It was like, and I've continued to be friends with her. It's like, she's a wonderful, wonderful person, but it's not. There's something there that she doesn't quite believe it. But I think we're all kind of like Margaret. We can heal somebody and they'll feel really good, but those old limitations are so powerful that that's who they think they are. So they'll argue back and give some other kind of thing. And so dealing with that, it's a real challenge for me, because I want to say, oh no. But you can't do it with words, because the words get in the way. So if you're living with somebody, or you have got a friend or whatever, and they're really not accepting that, that's your best teacher. But Jesus doesn't feel so good always. When it's like, oh yeah, everyone in our family, back 7 generations, had their gallbladder removed. Yes, I'm right there now. We've all had this. It's these old stories, they're so powerful. And I know that I'm inside of them too. The stories, and when they come up, it's so easy to make excuses. But we're just already brilliant and powerful and wonderful exactly like we are. It's just that we've forgotten it. So how do we remember? See, and I think that's why we're here, is for each other. I think that's why we're here. And I don't know if I have a real clear idea of what my life purpose is, but I know it has something to do with teaching and bringing out forth the best out of every being, to see the beauty and the love in every being and bring out the very best for them. And that's the old definition of what teaching is educare, to bring forth from within, to go back to that. So the teacher is, you have to wear many hats to be a teacher. And I'm just learning myself how I can learn to do this. And it's a wonderful journey. And one of the things that I'm experiencing, just like even right now in my life, is one of the things I really wanted to do was to help to transform our neighborhood. And that was one of the things Master Lin had said was one of the things how his neighborhood has transformed as he's transformed. Well, it's happened in our neighborhood. I mean, everything is just beautiful and wonderful. And right down the street, my neighbor Liz, who's here, has a healing center. So I get to teach, and all I have to do is walk. It's 1 minute away to go to the Peaceful Heart Qigong Healing Center. But now that I have it, it's like, doesn't everybody have this? This is just normal, isn't it? And so I have to have a bigger goal. And I mean, it's just wonderful the way it is. And I don't, we taught a level 2 class, I think it was last weekend or the weekend before. Or actually I taught the class, but I'm just learning it. It's so well laid out. But I have a tendency to go back to the way that I've been teaching for 45 years. And I have to take what's good and be able to stay on task. And it's really quite a challenge for me. But it's a good challenge, and I know I'm going to get better. It's just like by doing it. And right now I'm at this level, still wondering, but it's like that confidence comes with a story that Katrina alluded to the other day. She said, erase all doubt. And I'll tell you this story. It's from Han Lee. He's a master. Some of you might know Han Lee. He lives out in the Washington, D.C. area. But we were at a level 2 training. This was, I don't know how many years ago. And Han shows up at it was the old Thunderbird Hotel. Some of you might know where it is, near the airport. And Han arrives at the restaurant, and he realizes he left his briefcase with all of his IDs and everything at the airport, and he had to go back, and he was quite nervous, and you could understand what kind of a state he was in. And I was right there with Han, and we were just hoping for the best. We caught the next shuttle, got back, and on the shuttle he saw this. There was an older guy, and he had a veteran's hat on, and Han told him this story, what happened. And this guy, his name was Ruben Montoya, said, erase all doubt. And that calmed Han down. Han arrived at the airport, and they were saying, be sure you take care of all your belongings, don't let him sit down. And he went over, and his briefcase was still there. And then he came back to the airport, came back to the Thunderbird Hotel, and told that story, erase all doubt. And that's really the message. We just have to erase all doubt. And he met this guy, and it actually helped to change his life. He's now providing free services for veterans. It's like these things are happening all around us, but sometimes we don't trust. It doesn't always work out that way, but sometimes it does. But when we imagine the worst, and we worry and we're anxious, it's kind of like bringing it into being. When we worry and we're anxious, we are starting to create negative images which we attract to us. So if enough of us start imagining and believing, like the 100th monkey phenomenon that some of you might know, we're going to transform things. So right now in the world, lots of people are saying, oh, we're going downhill. It's never been worse. Look at all the wars that we're creating. Well, that may be true. But there's another force that's even stronger and more powerful. And the bigger the problem, the more creative we become. It's already inside of us. It's inside of every one of us. John Denver says that, sings that. It's inside of every one of us. So I'll just make that little 7th thing here again. To get across here, oftentimes it's the metaphor, the story, the poem, the song that will get us to our higher vibration. Or even like that little boudoir, some 6-word kind of thing. So I've been playing around with these 6-word mottos. Another one that I have is because of a teacher had given me a little book. I got to get this here. It's a little book. It's called Pass It On. And I really like that. Pass it on. And there's a thing that Ram Dass has a book, and the saying is like, be here now. So for me, that's another little 6-word motto. Be here now, pass it on. I'm going to have you, we're going to do a little meditation, but if you have a piece of paper or something, see if you could write something about yourself, see how, of what your motto might be. It's good if you could start it with I am. And if you aren't able to do this now, you can watch the video or think about it. But there's like a writing approach called the 6-word motto. And they say it came from something that Ernest Hemingway had once said. He wrote, somebody asked him if he could write a novel in 6 words. So this is what he wrote. For sale, baby shoes never worn. Doesn't that say a lot right in that? For sale, baby shoes never worn. But if you have a motto, something that you say to yourself, so 2 of them that I say to myself, you can choose these, but try them on or whatever, but one is, I am the quintessential love radiator. And the other one is, be here now, pass it on. How about if you, we're going to take 1 minute each way, find a partner that you don't, somebody that you don't know, and I'm going to give you 1 minute. Tell somebody something that you really love that has some juice in you that might be like your motto. Okay, so it'll be to tell a story, something. I'm going to ring the bell because we don't have very much time. But I want you to just try this out with another person. So it's going to be like a little think and listen session. The person that's the, we'll say the elder, if you can figure out. The elder will be the first one to go. And you'll have to decide with yourself. Maybe that wasn't a good choice. But just let's try that out. Just to say something about something that you love that might be the juice for creating your motto. Okay? You want to just get your partner, please? Okay, switch, person B, go. Okay, to bring your attention back. And I'm going to take 3 minutes to just ask the question. There's 2 great questions. The first question is, when you go to bed tonight, or when you go into a deep place, we're going to ask yourself the miracle question. When you wake up in the morning and the miracle has occurred, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? What are you thinking? So that's one question. And the other second question is, you had this intention, this goal, you kind of know what you're working on. What have you noticed so far that it's working? So what I want you to do, I'm going to ask you this question. What did you notice when you did this exercise? What did you notice?
I noticed a lightness.
A lightness. When you were listening or talking?
Both.
Both. Very good. Notice the lightness, both when you're talking and, because that's already both when talking and listening. Very good, both ways. What else did you notice? Okay.
I felt a lot of happiness and joy.
A happiness and joy.
Love.
Very good. Was it when you were talking or listening, or don't you?
Both.
Both. Very good. Absolutely. Good noticing. What else did you notice?
No limitations.
Oh, okay. Very good. It's already happening. There's just some good questions. Those are two questions that I found. One of those was the miracle question. Actually, come from my work with Milton Erickson. He would have these. He would tell all these stories and whatnot, and people would be in this deep place, and then he would ask the miracle question. Or that was like one of the things that was embedded in there. When you wake up in the morning, you've been sleeping, and you wake up in the morning, the miracle has already occurred. That's a good time. The time right before you go to sleep, it's called the hypnagogic state. And right when you wake up in the morning are two very, very important times. Those are the times when it's like a good time to practice how you want to be, when the limitations aren't there. If there's any kind of fear or you don't believe it, well, maybe you need to try something else or whatever and let go of the fears. But when you erase all doubt, it's already there. The healer is already inside of you. And it's just keep asking the questions. If you don't get the answer right away, that's because it's probably very deep inside of you. It's a good thing. Sometimes we get it right away, but like me, sometimes I have to, and it's almost like when I forget about it, that it's there right in front of me and it jumps out at me. So I carry a little pad down and write it down. So I'm going to just end with a little magic here, and then we'll do a very brief meditation, about a 5-minute one, because it doesn't take long. But I'm kind of, I get on the computer and I start hearing these TED Talks, and one leads me to another, and I don't know if that happens to anybody else, but sometimes I learn things that I wasn't even thinking I was looking for, but they're great things. Here's 2 little things that I learned this week. One was this guy who was a magician that was working with businesses. So he's using his, and he said, and he told how some things weren't working for him, and it was because he had kind of forgotten his own truth or whatever. But his assistant then reminded him of when you say abracadabra. Abracadabra comes from the Aramaic. And the meaning of it is, what we speak is what we create. I thought that was so cool. What we speak is what we create. Abracadabra. So what you say, you're going to bring that into being. Be careful what that inner dialogue is saying, and we need ways to interrupt it to find even stronger ways, stronger energy to be at a higher level, so we can interrupt that and create who and what we really are on the inside already. The other thing that I learned was this guy was talking about, gave this long presentation, and then he said, the ending was what I remembered. He says, we're like eggs. If you crack them from the outside, we die. But if you crack it from the inside, it brings new life. Isn't that a cool thing? We're like eggs. Somebody does it to you from the outside, or you beat yourself up, we die. But if you break it from the inside, new life, that stays with me. Sometimes an image like that. I had this image that came to me. I was going through quite a process of deciding and finding out who's really my master. And I just had this image at this last level, level 4. I thought I was in a total sleep, and when I came out of it, there was like this beautiful hand behind. And I'll just never forget that image. It's just like this nice symbol for me. I think it means like something, well, you're in good hands, just trust it. Your master is there right behind you all the time, or inside of you, all around you, wanting to help you. It's just that we have to trust it and erase all doubt. So if you would erase all doubt and pretend like you had a really good experience here. You pretend long enough, it'll happen. You'll believe it. So just go ahead and close your eyes again. Relax your whole body, which you know how to do. Draw your chin back a little. Tongue against the roof of the mouth. Wear a smile on your face. And I trust that tonight you're going to go to sleep. And as you're going to sleep, you say thank you to the universe, to your master, and ask some question that you might be working on that you aren't able to solve yourself, or just trust that it's already there and the problem is solved when you wake up. You're having a nice long sleep. You're breathing slowly, gently, and deeply. Images are coming into your mind. Some you're aware of, some you're not. You might wake up in the night and you know that it's happening. You trust. You're already through that door. You're on the other side where the magic happens. And then when you're going to wake up, maybe you wake up in your sleep and you practice it. The miracle has already occurred. What are you seeing in this miracle? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? What are you telling yourself? What kind of stories? What are you saying to yourself in your inner dialogue? What story are you telling? And what are you smelling? Maybe you smell that lotus flower that's there below the sun in your heart. And tasting, and even with your sixth sense, what are you knowing? And you wake up in the morning. It's like waking up you're like an egg from the inside. You're waking up to a brand new world, and it's brand new. The world is brand new when we're born, reborn, become someone new. And you look in the mirror and say, thank you to your best friend. Thank you. Thank you, the light within. Thank you, Master, whatever it is for you. Thank you. I love you. Feel how good it feels and how you're full of expectancy and wonder and curiosity. And you wake up, and then when you wake up in the morning, it's good to start with a wake up. I like the way Master Lin says we can wake up, feel the light in your head, all the channels open in your neck and throat, shoulders, your arms, upper arms, elbows, forearms, fingers, fingertips, light is going through, Light is growing through your chest and your breast. Light is up and down your spinal column, your neck column, neck spine, upper spine, middle spine, lower spine, sacrum and tailbone filled with light. And feel that light in your heart and your lungs. Liver, gallbladder, pancreas, stomach, spleen, intestines, small intestines, the large intestines, your kidneys, reproductive organs, your bladder, all the channels open, filled with the miracle of life. You've opened up from the inside. You feel it in your thighs and your knees, calves, ankles, tops and bottoms of your feet. Your body feels so wonderful. Your heart and your mind and your body and your spirit all are right here with you. And you know you can get back to that in various ways. One is by saying your motto. One is by trusting your heart. One is just, without a doubt, knowing that the miracle has occurred. And say thank you. Whenever we say thank you for what we want to bring into existence, it's already there. It's just like a matter of letting it come out. Just put the picture in your head of what you want. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just trust. And then take 3 slow, gentle, deep breaths. And rub your hands together nice and long. Massage your face. Massage your ears. And I feel like I'm going to end with a poem here. This is a poem, I love children's poetry. They're so wonderful, just children's little poems. They're like little prayers for me. This one is by Beatrice D. Rayner. It's called Keep a Poem in Your Pocket and a Picture in Your Head. It goes like this. Keep a poem in your pocket and a picture in your head, and you'll never feel lonely at night when you're in bed. The little poem will sing to you, the little picture bring to you a dozen dreams to dance to you at night when you're in bed. So keep a picture in your pocket and a poem in your head, and you'll never feel lonely at night when you're in bed. Thank you.